Contributor Appreciation with Miss Thomas. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. I am the host of the Progressive Soapbox. This is my lovely wife, Mrs. Thomas. She assists me with hosting often, not over the last few weeks, but she's here today. So welcome back to the Soapbox.
Thank you.
Excellent. So while we wait for people to come, I want to thank you guys. My mom, you haven't seen me too often last week. I did a few shows, but it wasn't that often. My mom has been ill. I want to send a thank you to people who've been sending me thank you requests in Google. Well, it's not really a request. It's more like a thank you message or get well soon message.
Right, like a well wishes.
Yeah, well, get well wishes. And we've gotten several of them. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
She's doing fine now, by the way.
Yeah,
well.
So they were able to go in with the procedure. They did a laparoscopic procedure, so it wasn't necessarily too much downtime. It's only been a few days, and she's up visiting her mom, so she can't be doing too bad. So that's positive. I'll take it. When you first get cancer, it's kind of like, what? And then everything below that becomes okay, fair enough. I'll take it. And that's what that was. This was an okay, fair enough. I'll take it. So she's doing fine. And so you guys are probably going to see me back on my regular time next week. Also, this week was interesting because I was on Fault Lines. And I went to DC. And so, when I went to DC, I think that was Wednesday. It was an all-day show. It was Fault Lines and it was By Any Means Necessary. That show should have aired on Friday.
Yep.
They pre-taped me. The news that I got was that I'm also going to be on a third show now. I don't know the name of that show, but it's with
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I know. Stay tuned for the name. But the show has Bill. Oh, what is it? Becker. It's Becker, and Jesus Christ, the name just slipped from me. The spy that was locked up.
But this is gonna be still on the Sputnik radio station.
It's still gonna be on
DC, right?
Yeah, it's still gonna be on Sputnik radio station, and it's gonna be on DC. The name slipped from me. Both of their names. They're like, I love both of them. It's funny. Becker is one of the guys' name. He's like a Russian historian. The guy's, knowledgeable in all things Russian. It starts with a K.
Well, we'll find it. We'll find it.
It's going to come to me as we're talking. I'm just going to blurt it out.
We'll come back when we find it. And
the important point is, I will be a host, working with co-hosts on the third show now, on Sputnik radio station.
That'd be cool.
That is going to be very cool. I like it. At some point, somebody's going to say, hey, this guy keeps...
Kiriakou?
That's it. Thank you. Kiriakou. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I knew my audience
Neo
was
Shazam,
Kiriakou.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Kiriakou. And so, he's awesome. I actually tried to get him on this show. In fact, I tried to get both of them on this show. Becker said he would do the show, and now at this point, I'm going to be able to harass him in person since I'm going to be on his show.
Make it happen.
I know, right? Make it happen. So it should be good, man. I was enamored by that because it means that you're doing something decent.
If they invite you to do a third show, because at first you went to Fault Lines.
Right.
And then you got added on to By Any Means Necessary.
Where they were like, wow, we like that guy. I wonder if we can get him on the show.
Radio gig for Sputnik.
Just out of the blue, I'm walking out and I am doing By Any Means Necessary, and I'm doing the taping for it.
Loud and clear. Uncle Brother says it's loud and clear with Brian Becker and John Kiriakou.
It's Kiriakou. That's it. I promise you, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm bad with names.
Thank you, Uncle Brother. Well, I'm reading it now.
Yeah. Well, I know the person.
I don't know if the pronunciation is correct.
It's Kiriakou.
But yes, okay.
He's he's a spy. So he was a spy.
He used to be a spy.
He used to be a spy. He used to be a spook.
He's not a spy now.
He's not a spy now.
Because you just put all his business out there if he is a spy.
Well, he put his business out there.
No, I mean, like, you're saying he's a spy. What I'm saying is, if you're telling if he's currently a spy.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
And you're here saying he's a
trouble.
spy, then he must not be a good spy.
But no, he revealed information, something that the United States was doing that it had no business doing. He was prosecuted for that, locked up for that. His life was ruined because of that. He was a whistleblower. He was doing what was right.
Yeah.
And they put him on a radio station as one of their hosts. And so the guy is awesome. And Becker, I saw Becker first time with, God, what is that woman's name? The reporter. The names are like dropping from my head. You know who she is. He always said that I had a crush on her.
Abby Martin?
Yeah, Abby Martin. That's right. The A was coming to me, but it was saying Amy, but I was like, it's not Amy. Yeah, Abby Martin. So Abby Martin did a show with her with Becker, and did this kind of series on the Russian Revolution and those type of things. It was amazing. It was really, really good. So I've tried to since get him on my show. I found him, caught him in person. He said yes, but I haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
But now I could be in person and be like, you gotta be on my show. You gotta be on my show. You be on my show. It's like every other question is gonna be horrible. He's gonna be like, yeah, dude, God damn it, I've been on your show. It's like, all right, yes. What's your Jack's again? Yeah, I go from there. So that's awesome. So I thought that news was amazing. You talking about a kiss to the ego. Because look, nobody has to have you on your show. And there are times where you might think, okay, well, they're just having me just to be a foil in the show. Maybe I'm just here for the...
No, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. Like, they're not calling me to be on the show. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not just picking out some random Joe Schmo and like, we just need another voice. Just put any old body on here. I mean, it does require a certain level of...
skill, acumen, knowledge, historical precedence, and
okay, do we have any other news or updates?
Gravity of opinion. Logical disposition and reasoning faculties. It requires all those things. And you're right. Maybe I don't give myself enough credit. I should give myself more credit. So yeah, there's that. So from the show thing, another thing, patron appreciation. So what we found was that...
Wait, this is my update.
What do you mean?
I wanted to give the update.
Go for it.
Okay.
But you did ask me if there was anything else. You did.
Wait. Come
throw
back.
that to me. And you said, was there anything else?
Stay within the screen because the image is going weird. The color is going weird. Not that close.
Okay, go for it.
Not that close, buddy. Not that close. All right. So if you are just joining us, welcome to Contributor Appreciation. Weekly-ish shows.
It's
trying
weekly.
to get back to weekly.
Well, it's weekly. We missed last week, but that was just...
Okay. Weekly shows where Jamal takes the time out to thank everybody that contributes to the show.
Yes.
Primarily through Patreon. If you are not familiar with what Patreon is, because we've had people ask, and so I explain it. So Patreon is, you're watching YouTube and you say, hey, I like this guy. I want them to continue putting out content. So I'm going to contribute to them. And you commit to a monetary amount every month. It can be as little as $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever you want to give. And it goes to him directly so that he can continue making content.
Yes.
And so this started by putting up questions on Patreon to say, hey, what do you guys want to hear Jamal talk about? And giving the patrons a specific show. Historically, what happens is we get information and we get topic suggestions from patrons. We go through the topics, he gets his take, and then we take the video down from YouTube, we split it into different segments, and then we drop it in exclusively for patrons. Now, someone asked, why the hell do we do that? Because no one watches it. When we go back and look at the stats on those videos, they get like 5 views. And then some people have even mentioned that they don't log into Patreon.
Yeah.
That their money just goes and they don't check it. And so they're not going back and looking at that content. And so it's been decided, Jamal has decided, to leave the videos open for everyone.
Yes.
But because it is still contributor appreciation,
they get to choose.
The topics are still going to be driven. The shows are still going to be driven by the recommendations and the information submitted through contributors, which is primarily through patrons. Sometimes we'll get messages through email and other avenues, like if people donate through PayPal or Streamlabs or any other type of place that they contribute, then we get information there. But yes, just as an update, the videos will be live now for available now for everybody to see on YouTube, but we're still going to split them into the different segments.
Yeah.
So how that works is after the live show, it'll be taken down, and then the segments will be dropped in within the next 2 or 3 days because we have to split them, add graphics, all that good stuff. So they'll be put back up, but they will be available outside of Patreon now.
There's something.
So that's it. Yeah. So if you're a patron or contributing, don't forget to log into your Patreon. There's a weekly post that goes out usually on Thursday that asks what you would like to see discussed on the show, and that's where you put your information. So we got a couple for this week. Yeah. 3 of them. So
yeah. And so I mean, I guess at the very least people get to direct the questions. I look at other shows, and other shows kind of do it where people ask questions and they don't necessarily hold it specifically for patrons. I mean, because honestly it's not enough. And it's like 3 people.
People are saying, we don't log in a Patreon. I mean, I've heard people say that they don't. They just commit.
They just want to support the content,
right? And so they just commit and they follow because they're watching you on YouTube. It's like, what am I logging in a Patreon for?
Yeah.
So if they miss the video and they're not logging in a Patreon, they're not getting those videos. And like we said, once we spend all the time cutting them and
It's
adding
like
the
7
graphics.
people, and it's like nobody's watching this video.
That watch it.
It's like nobody's
and a
watching
lot
this
of
video.
it is stuff that people want to hear about, but it is still going to be content driven by the contributors.
Right.
So don't forget to still log in and give us your topic suggestions. So that is an update that will change.
The topic suggestion is important, especially if it's something that you're interested in. You'd be like, hey, what about this? And look, people send me topics constantly. I get a stream of them in an email. I have people who from day one have been interested in a certain area, and they would send me topics specific to the area to which they're interested in. That could be environmental news, that could be UFO stuff. I get a ton of UFO videos where people are like, dude, take a look at this.
If nobody gives topic suggestions, that's what we're going to hear all the time.
It's like patron appreciation. Let's do UFO video. Yeah, you get those. Somebody says, Jamarl look like he's 10 years younger when he does UFO videos. It's fascinating. How could you not be fascinated by it?
That's what he likes to do.
By the way, Tucker Carlson got Donald Trump on and was asking him about UFO stuff. You haven't seen that. I would imagine you haven't seen that.
You're right.
Yeah. But Tucker does a segment where Tucker is like going in, and Tucker is asking him.
I think you told me about that.
I was telling you about it. Where Tucker, and it was like, that's amazing. Tucker, look, but whatever you want to think of Tucker Carlson, this has been an interest of his. And he's done show after show after show on this, what other people have been scared of. And Tucker, like Joe Rogan, asks the basic question of, why aren't more people interested in this? You are a ball hurling through the cosmos. And we are sending stuff with our little rudimentary technology to other planets. And we have stuff flying through the solar system. It takes God to be invoked to believe that we are the only ones. If life develops on this planet, why wouldn't it develop other planets? That's the basic tenet. And so people like Rogan, people like Tucker are like, people are seeing things. And are we supposed to pretend that they're not? Like, it's that. It's just the basic logic
of... Why
are they concerned? Why are people... And then when the Navy comes out and says, okay, we are investigating this, so we're going to open a pathway for people to tell us about this, but no, we're not going to tell you what we find. Like, when you get stuff like that, and people are like, we're seeing things off our shores, we have no idea what those are, but they're doing magnificent things. And one of the Navy pilots, the guy who...
Is it Air Force or Navy?
Air Force. Well, this guy was a Navy guy. Okay. But he comes out and says, I made the decision to get to another location, and the thing beat me to the location. And he says, how the hell did it know that I was going to the location? Which gets into a consciousness thing. Like, all of these are fascinating things.
These are the kind of conversations that you should have on the black box. And then, I think that you should just...
And then the military starts investigating weird technologies.
I think that you should just start a video on the black box. And just, talk. Because it'll lead to all of these...
Other topics, brainstorming for the black box show.
If you didn't know... Jamal has a second channel called The Black Box.
Yes. I have not put much on that.
It's supposed to house all of this alternate
UFO
content.
Stuff.
It could be UFO. It could be comics. It could be Star Trek. It could be anything.
What is that? There's a blue something.
There's a glare. No, that's just
Is that the screen?
The end of the screen.
Oh, that's the end of the screen. Okay.
We're trying to see.
I'm trying to figure out, what is that?
On the
what
visual.
Is that?
But yeah, so... so right now we haven't gotten into any topics. We're just kind of chit-chatting, giving updates, letting people get logged on.
By the way, have you seen the debates? You were with me at the debate party. You saw the second one.
Yeah, I was there.
No, I was about to say,
have I seen the
said the debates, but there was 2 debates.
I did not see the first debate with Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes.
I did, of course, go with you, or you went with me.
To the debate party.
To the Bernie watch party.
Yes.
For the second round of debates with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris,
yes.
booty
gag, yeah. And we're not saying that because we're anti-gay.
The lady that said that she wanted to fight with love,
Marianne Williamson.
Yeah, she was.
I love that. Because in my head,
the power of love.
The power of love. We're going to defeat Donald Trump with the power of love. It puts me in the mind of Scott Pilgrim. That was my guilty pleasure. And at one point, Scott Pilgrim, he's on the stairways. He's about to fight the guy who's, he's finally the biggest bad for the boyfriend. And he says something like, no, I'm doing this for me. And he's like, Scott develops a power of love. And he rips a sword out of his chest. That's what it put me in the mind of when Marianne Williams said, we're going to beat Donald Trump with the power of love.
I loved when the very last question that they asked was, what is your first action going to be?
Yeah, your first priority.
As president. Like, when you get into office as president, what is your first priority going to be? Joe Biden says to beat Donald Trump. And I'm like, what? Did he?
Joe Biden has said a lot of weird stuff recently. Like,
I also like the part where they asked Andrew Yang to explain his standpoint on universal basic income.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they asked him the question, he was like, I'm sorry, what?
Well, like, he says Mike was off. He said he was a hard time.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said. He said his mic was off. And he says, they asked him, like, what do you think about the debates? You know, are you pissed off that the mic was off? He says, no. He says, because I think what the American people get is that the Asian man wants to give him $1,000 a month.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said. I love that.
Okay.
He gets that the Asian guy wants to give him cash. Like, it's like if I was black, I was like, he gets that the black guy wants to give $1,000 a month to everybody. I love that. So he said that part. Kamala Harris going after Joe Biden. Now, I'll ask you this because I bring you on the channel because, you know, you get the perspective of somebody who's not encased in politics.
Going after Joe Biden.
Okay, I loved it.
When she opened up on Joe Biden,
yes,
she was hitting him for supporting busing.
Now, keep in mind, everybody at the Bernie Sanders meeting screamed with like, "Oh yes!" with
now,
this, even though none of them were.
To be clear, this was a Bernie Sanders watch party.
Yes.
So you already know what was, you know, in the minds of the people in attendance. And she starts going in on Joe Biden. Now, also to be noted, I think Jamal and there was one other African American at the debate party. And we were sitting there. One other black person.
One other black.
We were sitting there, and there was about 20 people or so. And she's going after him, talking about how he supported busing. And she was the little girl and all this other stuff. And I'm looking like, ain't nobody gonna stop this? And Jamal goes, well, she's black. She's the black voice right now.
What are they gonna...
Like, she's the only African American.
Can you imagine if they would have been
debate,
like Chuck Todd?
Who has the balls, the gall, the audacity?
And she wasn't gonna let him. If you notice, she was
step in and stop this black woman.
Especially when she posited as, I am the only black person here. Like, when
and
she
so
starts
she was
it
like,
there.
She's like,
I love
so
it.
let me speak. And I'm like, this bitch. Now, that's because I don't really care for Kamala Harris. But
right. And you're black, so from your standpoint, there's no thought of, okay, are they going to say something, you know, do I need to give her space? There's a bit of white guilt. There's all sorts of stuff mixed into this. But Chuck Todd and Richmond were like, fair enough. It's a lefty organization. It's a Democratic Party. 99% of Democrats vote.
Let her go in on
90% of blacks vote Democrat. So understand where you are. I'm making a point that, yeah, they're going to give her space. You're in the Democratic Party debate. Joe Biden has made a faux pas. The only African-American woman on stage is taking her space and owning her space. Claiming my time. And they said, fair enough. Let the black woman speak. And what do they do? They put a box on Joe Biden's head.
Right.
And Joe Biden is
because as she's going after him, they do a split screen to make sure that they're capturing Joe Biden's response to him being hit in the knees.
And he takes it. He's
But like afterwards when we talked about it, and I think you were the one that was like, well, you know why, right? Because Joe Biden has the black vote and Kamala Harris needs the black vote. And so she's like, I'm here representing for my people today, and I'm hitting Joe Biden. What is that?
She's carving out the black vote.
Don't do that.
That was her job. What I would guarantee
you
this.
But she did well.
In her debate prep, she would say, I would guarantee you 1,000 times, she said, I'm going to hit him on this, and I need to find an effective way to do it. And this was the way she found to do it. She says, I was bused. Now, we find out later that her policy for busing is pretty much the same as Joe Biden's.
But she took that moment.
But she took the moment. Nobody's going to ask what was her policy after the fact. They're going to see her in that moment on the debate stage, putting a knife into Joe Biden and doing what he can to carve out the black vote. That's what she was doing. That's her job. And she did admirably at her job. She did an amazing job. I don't particularly like Kamala Harris. Do not misunderstand me.
In that moment, she was shining.
In that moment, oh my God, she did her thing. And afterwards, Joe Biden numbers fell precipitously.
And
she rose. Her and Elizabeth Warren jumped in the polls. She did a good job. I give credit where credit is due. In a raw politics state, where the job of it is, I need his points. I'm number 4 in the polls. I'm in striking distance. And in striking distance, it's Mr. Joe Biden. Because if I can put a knife into him and carve out the black vote, then that is enough for me to jump in position. That was her point. That was her goal. That was literally the goal. as it should have been her goal in raw politics.
Now, Fred Edwards says the audacity, that is my favorite word, Fred, just for the record. The audacity to call out Joe for his bad racist policies while she, Kamala Harris, actively locked up poor black, brown, and white folk.
I know.
Needs to be called out.
But now, Joe Biden tried to. If you remember, when she hit Joe Biden,
it didn't.
She kept going.
Yeah.
But if you remember, Fred, when she hit Joe Biden the first time, Joe Biden says, "I was working as a public defendant while you were putting people in prison." That was his literal start. And people cheer that because that is an amazing retort.
Now, I will say, because he and I were just having this conversation before the video started. So you guys know that, or if you may not know, because somebody said they didn't even know that you had a second channel. So obviously, you're not promoting Black Box well enough.
I haven't put anything on it
But
yet.
we'll address that later. Anyways, I've had 2 people come up to me because of him. People think that I am like politically astute. I don't know, like people think that I'm like in the know, and they ask me stuff like, I don't know, like we have conversations about politics now. Where, you know, maybe they don't because they're like, we don't. We didn't really talk about stuff like that. But I've had 2 women, white women, who told me that they like Kamala Harris, and I was like, really? Well, why? I think, and Jamal and I speculated, progressive like to support African Americans. It sounds good to say that you're supporting the black candidate.
Yes. I think that.
They are open to an African American candidate, a black candidate, whatever. Do you know anything about our policies? Well, no, not really. The first person told me that they like the way she speaks.
Yes.
And I said, and this person is in politics.
She's in politics.
She is. Not in politics. She's not.
But she does the political stuff.
Right. She is somewhat entrenched.
You asked her why.
And she said, I like the way she speaks. I don't know much about her, but I like her.
Which kind of goes to she's articulate.
The second person.
Wait. I like the way she speaks. She's the same thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's just an odd thing. I remember there was a guy who told me one time, he was a lefty. He says, I supported Obama because he was black. Straight up told me. And I was like, people support people for all sorts of reasons. Well, what do I give a shit? But his thing was, I thought because he was black, he'd do something different. Which is astonishing because it's an identity politics where you're associating the person's race with something that they're going to do different. And it's like, no.
And shout out to the comments. And if you don't know, and if you've never heard me say, I read the comments on my phone. So a lot of the time while I'm doing the show here, I'm looking down. But shout out to you guys in the comments because Burnman said, this is why identity politics and the narratives behind them need to be fought harder. It'll subvert substantive, I hate that word.
Substantial.
No,
substantive.
Right. Progressivism. Leslie Walker, yes, he says real progressives support policies.
Yes.
That means that you're informed, and before you go and say, I like XYZ, you have a legitimate reason why you know something about their policies.
I'm always astonished by when people say that. It's like, because my first response is, why?
I like so-and-so. In the same vein,
why?
I've had people tell me I don't like Bernie.
And then my first answer is always also, why?
Now, because I'm going to put this out here. I don't usually do it. I don't like to talk about my family.
Oh, you're talking about your mama.
But I am going to put her out here and put her on blast because she called me specifically the day after the debates to talk trash. Because she knows that I like Bernie Sanders. I don't think he did well in the debates. I think he needed to push a little harder.
So you're with me on this. He needed to throw a push.
Yeah.
But like after seeing Kamala Harris go after Biden, my first thought was
Bernie to do that.
Sanders needed to do that. And not kind of in a roundabout way, but she put a knife in him. And it was one of those things where Sanders was just standing between the two with his head kind of like wow. Sanders, I kept saying, you're part of the civil rights movement. Like, there's images of Sanders sitting behind Martin Luther King. There's images of Sanders getting dragged away.
I was saying something.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so my mom calls me the day after debates and tells me, excuse me?
I just said Sanders took a punch.
Okay. And tells me, I'm sorry for you guys, but there's no chance for Bernie. And she goes on to basically tell me not Bernie. And I said, why? I don't know, just not Bernie. Okay, so then who then? I don't know, but not Bernie. I don't mind having the conversation if it's an actual conversation.
Gotta have a reason.
Like if you're telling me specifically, well, even if you say he's too old.
I think your mom's age racist.
Okay. whatever. But
I do.
at least have legitimate. Now, the second woman who said that they like Kamala Harris and that she said she liked Bernie, but she was worried about Bernie, just like everybody else, I think, that knows anything about Bernie and what happened in 2016.
Yeah.
She's worried about him getting through. And I mentioned to her, and we were talking about the debates, and I said, well, everybody that was talking about their platform, all of their issues on their platform, majority of their issues, started with Bernie. You know what I mean? This was all Bernie 2016. Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, money out of politics, all of the erasing the debt, student loan debt. These are all this is Bernie. And she said, oh, you make a good point. I said, there's variances and there's arguments about how to effectively get there. But essentially, it was all Bernie. And she's like, oh, you make a good point. But she said she liked Kamala too. And I was like, do some research, because she does not have a good track record as a prosecutor, especially when you're thinking about her race.
Yes.
And her history of incarcerating and pushing to incarcerate the poor.
Keep saying race matters less than class.
Yeah,
I keep saying it. Said it 1,000 times. What you're going to do in policy. I don't care if Bernie Sanders is old. I don't care if he's white. I don't care if he's Jewish. Bernie Sanders could be an alien of another planet. I don't care. I care about his policies. Honestly, full stop. Now, let me say this. Go for it.
Because I saw a meme or like a something online on social media a couple of weeks ago where an African American guy said that he was somewhere and he was talking to an older white woman, and she said, "Oh wow, you're so articulate."
Right.
Now, someone else is talking about how Biden told Obama he's clean and articulate,
right.
And someone saying they like Kamala Harris because the way that she speaks, and you said articulate. Now, when I saw this thing online, and it was a young man, maybe 20, talking about how he impressed this white woman because he was so well spoken. Someone responded in the comments, and it kind of made a little sense, even though it was really rough, that's because she wasn't expecting anything of you. Well, that she was expecting you to be poorly spoken.
That's the problem.
So she was like, oh, wow, you're so articulate.
Right.
So you were expecting the opposite?
The expectation.
So that kind of...
That's where it comes.
It's like, oh, wow, she's such an articulate black woman.
But it's not meant to be taken as a neg.
I know, but I wonder, you know what I mean? Is it because you know what... Yeah.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
Well, else would you say it? Like, if your if my expectation of you was to be utterly and entirely incompetent, and you came out and you said math, a perfect example. When I had I guess it was an OBE, maybe it was like a lucid dreams thing, and I was telling my mom, I said, yeah, in the back, Ricky was reading a newspaper. She said he was reading a newspaper. She was shocked by that. Like, it was like, because she knew that he wasn't all mentally there to be able to read the newspaper. Yeah. So the fact that he was reading it in and of itself was astonishing. Like, the fact that you're bringing up, wow, you speak really well, and you're talking to somebody with like Asperger's or something like that. If you assume that there would be some people who would speak all that well, then you wouldn't necessarily say that. I've never heard anybody say that white person is articulate. That is just really, it's odd phraseology to me, but it comes up all the time, and I don't take offense to it. I don't take offense to most stuff people say, because I know their intention isn't necessarily negative. All people...
But it's a comparison.
It is a comparison.
To say that, and it's kind of like you showing that you had an expectation of me not being able to be articulate. I thought that was interesting, especially because we're talking about...
Is it the individual's fault?
Nah, I don't know. You always want to go.
Go there. I mean, you have to go there because we're saying you kind of have to, because as an African American, and we're saying for this person to say, well, God, you're so articulate, or she's so clean, or whatever you want to add to that, but the person speaks so well, then and you also have to go to this point of what they didn't mean anything by it. Like, that person who said that was speaking in the best interest. Not to mention, they even voted for the person. So it's not like they're harboring hatred towards that black person who they're voting for and they're saying he's speaking well. However, as an African American, you look at this and be like, well, wait a minute. There are a lot of people.
Properly,
I just speak English.
Not articulate for a black person.
Right. But that white person, who's clearly not racist because she's literally voting for a black person, she's making this kind of judgment value, even though she doesn't know she's making a judgment value. Where did she get that from? And is it her fault?
Well, someone's saying it's an old kind of phraseology. Yeah.
I guess my point is, it can't be their fault. It's your society is arranged in a particular way, and your society drives those things deep in the individuals themselves.
And people are saying that they have called white people articulate.
I've never heard that though.
I've never experienced
that.
But I will say that you experience the world through your own experiences.
That's true.
As an African American, we see things differently than whites do. So for a white to say, "Well, I call other people articulate,"
we see things in the context of our culture,
through my experiences.
I guess my point is, I don't take offense, or I don't feel any way about it. I look at a lot of the stuff as your society drives certain things. Not to mention there's certain phraseologies that are associated with our world. Like also, I'll add stuff in. But there's some African Americans who would be like, take issue with that. The fact that they're still talking about it today, that Biden called Biden clean and articulate. Clean. So fine and so clean. That doesn't necessarily bother me too much. I don't necessarily think that's being said in he's a dirty,
as opposed to a dirty
Negro, right? I don't think he's saying it that way. I think he's saying it clean in the sense of like that suit is
clean.
Yeah, and maybe I'm giving him too much benefit of the doubt, but that's the way I took it. As for articulate, yeah, I do hear that, and there's a thing in our culture that hears that and bristle a little bit. It's like, what do you expect that person not to be able to speak all that well? I mean, it's like, no, I didn't expect that at all. Then why are you saying he's articulate? You're making a value of,
Chemishwari Kate says, I hate to tell this to you, but as a Caucasian, we have been given the message that other colors of people are not intelligent.
Yes.
Black women in my high school class slapped us awake to see the reality.
Yes. Well, that's my point.
I understand.
It's the cultural thing that digs into people. It's not.
But there is, and not just whites. Not just whites, because other blacks will say, well, why do you talk white?
Yeah.
That will be the experience. Yeah. That they'll say, well, why do you talk white? Well, I don't talk white. I mean, I'm speaking correct English. I'm not, my speech isn't laced with ebonics. Now, I would drop an F-bomb in a heartbeat, but...
That's more so when I was younger, though. Like, that's more so a younger thing. Like, when you're a child and there's a certain cultural pressure. And look, some of this is rap. Because they speak a certain way in rap, so that's considered to be this kind of cultural dialect. Some of it is in movies where you may have some elements of culture that kind of gets overblown. Like some of the people make it out from poverty to riches using music and using that as a thing of being a platform of pushing out media. This notion that, media matters. I argue that Will and Grace was one of the best things for gay marriage as opposed to some of the other activist orientations.
So this reminds me of when you said you went to the store the other day and the lady...
Yeah, she's like, I like some of my customers better than others.
Now this is a small fast food restaurant, like locally owned, like really, really small. It's like the size of a closet inside. Kind of like a mom and pop kind of thing.
I've been going to that place for 40 years.
Black neighborhood. It is in a rough ish. There are some characters every time I go, he tells me be careful. And his mom is like, are you going by yourself? To give context on what kind of environment this is.
I've been going to this place for like 40 years. Literally like 40 years. That place is awesome. The food is awesome.
But the lady told you the other day that you were better than, like, she liked you better than
she was like, I like some of my customers. Now, to give more context, some of them are ruthlessly fucking with her constantly. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they are, and they do. They do.
That's all. She has that tough skin to work in that area. So
it's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yes. All right, so let's do the news. Let's do the show.
So you got 156 people here.
All right, let's start.
We're gonna get started. Welcome to Contributor Appreciation.
I guess to be honest, all that was started. I mean, to be honest, having those conversations, I think, are real conversations. Having the conversation on, her putting a knife in Joe Biden and trying to get that black vote, I think it was a real conversation. Even this conversation on
she's black. She should have the black vote, right?
She should have black vote. That's the way I think she's looking at it. But African Americans don't look at it that way.
No, we're looking at what you've done.
Yeah.
We do care. And even people, I've noticed that people who aren't like politically, right, that's the word I keep wanting to come back to, but I'm trying to find another one. They are aware of Kamala Harris's history.
And we will put it on blast.
Just do the research before you say, I like XYZ.
Yes.
And someone says, well, why do you like this person?
Screw the race stuff. I mean,
because she's black.
It's one thing if, Do I think that that person may understand what it is to be African American in America a little bit more? Maybe. Does that mean that that would overwhelm their policies? No. No. That's not a one-to-one. All right, so let's start. By the way, before we get started, Chelsea Manning is in prison, and Chelsea Manning, the measures have kicked in where the prosecutor's trying to force her. They're charging her what? $1,000 a day. Now it went up from $500 a day to $1,000 a day. So now Chelsea Manning is still in prison. She is now up to $1,000 per day that the state is putting on her to get her to talk for Julian Assange. Just wanted to point that out.
Against Julian Assange.
Against Julian Assange, right. Just want to point that out. All right, let's start. Central America.
Now,
go for it.
The first topic, because again, this is contributor appreciation. This topic was submitted by Trudy, and I'm pretty sure she's in the chat. So thank you, Trudy. But Trudy wants us to talk about the dispute over the United States aid to Central America.
Yes.
So Trump has recently cut aid to Central America. I think in efforts to deter the caravan that's en route from Honduras. So, of course, in earlier this year, March 2019, there was a caravan that came from Mexico City. Hundreds of people came. And as a deterrent for the current caravan, Trump has cut aid to Central America. Let's see. Originally, are you pulling up the article?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, so in 2016, the United States, let's go down to do you want me to do this one? I thought this one was mine.
It is.
Okay. Go down to the second paragraph. Not that one. Right here. So how much U.S. assistance has gone to 3 countries?
Wait, before we go. Now, why is Trump doing this? Why is he cutting aid?
All right, so people are fleeing mostly Honduras. They're saying Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. But because of lawlessness, violence, poverty, there's a caravan of Central Americans that started out from that's last year. Central Americans follow... Do you have the thing up? Oh, okay. Okay.
Go for it.
What am I... Okay. I'm trying to read it on here and read it. Do you want me to give backstory on what the heck is going on?
Well, okay, that works. Well, so basically, though, there's a caravan of migrants that are coming to the country. And Trump, we have detestable conditions at our borders, and these guys are fighting over how much money to send, like how much money the Congress is going to pass to be used and how it's going to be used.
Correct.
Trump has been threatening to essentially cut funding.
Well, he has.
Okay, he's cut funding.
So in 2016, the United States gave $131 million to Guatemala. By 2019, Guatemala aid was cut to $69.5 million.
Wow.
We were giving $98.3 million to Honduras. That's been cut to $65.5 million. We were in 2016 giving $68 or so million to El Salvador. We're now giving about $46 million to El Salvador. Combined, the cuts amount to a reduction of about 40% for the 3 nations. Funding was previously allocated to a range of areas, including promotion of democracy, human rights and governance, economic development, education, and security. As well as the cuts, the Trump administration asked Congress to shift the balance of aid in 2019 towards security and rule of law efforts. Central American nations are far more dependent on... Are you following me here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's the gist of it.
That's the main part of it.
Right.
Now, the problem with this is just going to end up creating more refugees. Like, keep in mind, the reason that these people are leaving these countries is because mainly these countries are hellholes. And in leaving countries that are difficult places, be it gang violence, be it authoritarianism or whatever, some of them come to our borders and request asylum. Now, the catch here is, from a political angle, Democrats lose on this issue. They do. And the reason I say this, people don't want parents being ripped from their children. They don't want that. That's like, oh God, that's horrible. That's not who we are. We don't like that, etc. They also don't like conditions at our borders being essentially hellholes. Like, they don't want you creating, these horrible conditions on our borders where people don't have soap and utilities just to kind of wash and at one point AOC said somebody was requesting something to drink, and
They were
was
drinking
like,
out of the
drink
toilet.
Up, you know, it's like drink out the toilet.
toilet.
So these are horrible conditions. Now she calls them concentration camps. In this explicit meaning of the word, yes. In the German meaning of the word,
we're not
no.
going into that one. No.
Right, we're not going into that. I'm just saying. In the German meaning, no, but yes, in the strictest sense of the word. People don't like that. They don't like seeing that. But if you say, should we have open borders, those people say no. They say no. And they agree that there needs to be strengthening of the borders and those type of things. And when they see a migrant caravan, their response to this, we need to do something about the things that take place at our border. And so when Trump says this, he's not saying because it's bad politics. He's saying it because it's good politics. That's the only point. The cutting aid is nonsense. Like, that creates the problem, and that makes the problem worse.
Now, just really quick, I do have something else to read on here that was important. Mm-hmm. But Trudy, thank you for the super chat. She gave a super chat to say, because remember, this is her topic suggestion. Yeah. She says he cut aid 2 years in a row, cut it again after the first caravan started. It's a manufactured crisis for political gain, like you just said. Yeah. So in 2019, this is 2019, but in March, a caravan came. That's when the first caravan came from Mexico City, and so that's when additional cuts were being made.
And by the way, the article kind of makes a point that because of the politics, Trump made such a big deal out of it that it created a media attention to it. In which case, other people started to create their own caravans in order to come to the United States.
In the bottom, let's go down. Keep going almost all the way to the bottom. They're asking why people want to go.
Why they want to join the caravan.
Why they want to join the caravans. But essentially, all of Central America was watching the publicity, giving a lot of publicity to the original caravan in March, which meant if a lot of people are watching, then it's safer for us to travel via these caravans. And so since then, additional caravans. Many of the migrants on that trek, the original one in March, were Hondurans. Central Americans followed it closely in the media, in part due to Trump's repeated criticism of it. That publicity raised the profile of caravans as a potentially safer way to reach Mexico or the United States.
Keep in mind that there's also this thing of, safer. I mean, put it in context, safer. Let's also be clear. The Obama administration wasn't, a lib on this. Like, the Obama administration got rid of, 3 million migrants from the country, 3 million refugees, or people who were essentially deported, 3 million people. In creating and deporting those people, there was also the secondary policy of trying to make things so horrible here that people wouldn't come here. Meaning, in Obama's mind, we need to create a situation that is so horrendous at the border that people wouldn't decide to stay in their own countries, that the countries were a better alternative than coming to America, that our facilities were worse than where they were, which was never going to take place because they were coming from ganglands and war-torn areas. So there's that part. Cutting aid is only going to make this problem worse. Now, in a raw politics state, if you are Donald Trump and you're using immigration as one of your main issues, then you might want to create a situation where the problem gets worse. If the problem gets worse, you could turn around and you can point to the border saying, hey, look at the border. Look how horrendous the border is. We need to do something about the border. This is my one issue. This is the one thing that I want to talk about more than anything else. And you get an actual crisis at the border because of such. It's policy. Like, I don't know if Trump is doing this intentionally. Maybe. I don't even know if Trump makes the connection between the amount of money that you spend in regards to other countries, kind of like a Marshall Plan for Central and South America, and the number of migrants flooding into the United States because their condition is that much worse. I don't know. But if we're thinking of this in raw politics, maybe he does. And if somebody around him thinks about this in raw politics, maybe they do. And maybe their thought is cutting funding increases the number of immigrants. At the very least, it allows us to scream about something wrong with the border and allows us to potentially get elected because of our plan versus what the Democrats want, which sounds like open borders. Keep in mind, whatever the Democrat wants to do for this, if you notice, the questions that they got asked, they have a Hispanic contingency. The questions that were asked in the debate, in some response, even went to, would you decriminalize coming into the country illegally? And the Democrats were sheepish on this because they know the moment that they answer the question, yes, they're going to be hit when they run in the general election on they want open borders. Raw politics is raw politics. But look, the Hispanic contingency is like, we have our own political wants. This is not a united, states in the sense of united where all of us want the exact same thing. we have political things that we want. If you want our vote, meaning talking to the Democrats.
Yeah.
And whether you want to decriminalize or not, I am not for open borders. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. There are some lefties who completely disagree with me on this front. That when we get to the point where we have this kind of technocratic society and all societies are relatively equal and all this other stuff, then fair enough. But we're not there. And that said, I have enough sense to realize when I'm looking at the polling that the American public does not want open borders either. And that they are more on the side of strengthen borders.
Yeah.
Don't rip people from their mamas. Don't, do this nonsense where you're not funding the areas where you're putting people in. Listen to asylum. You should invest more money into courts and everything else in regards to asylum seekers. And I think the American public would agree that how Trump has done this has been horrible.
Yeah.
But when you look at the polling, they still agree on border security. Yeah. Like the Republicans don't hit that for no reason. They hit it because it's a safe area for them to hit. But yeah, those cuts are politically driven and they're going to make matters worse.
Yeah, they are. And that's even mentioned in the article, which if it's not, it'll
that they were
be
politically driven?
In the, critics of Trump's ongoing cuts to Central American assistance fear that less U.S.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I was literally reading off the screen.
My bad.
Fear that less U.S. engagement in the region risks aggravating the problems that encourage migration in the first place. The violence, the lawlessness, the poverty. Last month, Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez told Reuters that cuts in U.S. Reuters?
Yeah, but it's okay. Keep going. Okay. My bad.
Told Reuters.
Everybody knew what you meant. My bad. I shouldn't have said anything.
That cuts in U.S. aid would make it harder to stem illegal immigration.
Yes. Because the money that they were given accounted to like 1% of those countries' budgets.
Yeah. But it was given to, and again, this is El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. The aid was given in condition that these countries would show progress on issues like human smuggling, drug trafficking, and dissuading citizens from migrating illegally to the United States. So if you are cutting aid to these countries, their government is saying that now it's going to be harder for us to stem illegal immigration. It's like,
And it follows logically, though. I mean, I don't know the scale. I would imagine you probably can plot it on a graph, how horrible a country gets and the amount of immigration from that country.
Yeah.
I don't know the scale of horribleness. I don't know if there's such an index. But if there was, and you could plot it, I would wager that the more horrible it gets, the more people leave.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's fascinating. Thank you, Trudy. Thank you. And yeah, the politics of it, man, it makes sense. I mean, in a raw politics way, like where you don't care about human beings, where you pretend as human beings are just a factor for political gain or loss. And you can say, if we make their lives more miserable, more people flee, more people come to the border. And if they do so, we can now use this as a political issue for immigration. That sucks. That sucks. Yeah. Do I put it past somebody in politics to do it? No, I don't. But it still sucks. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to the next one. And that one is...
Now, this is all you, but I will just introduce it because this is coming from patron Fred Edward, and he's here today. So, Fred, thank you for this one. Fred wants to talk about... He gave two topics that we're going to talk about. But the first one is speak on how Iran is still honoring the deal that the U.S. withdrew from.
The JCPOA.
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm going to show you this. Iran set to exceed uranium enrichment limit in 2015 nuclear deal. Now, I've done this video a few times, and I've done it before, but just to give somewhat of the basics of it, and just so people can understand. And I'm going to give the Iranian position, because nobody ever gives the Iranian position on this. Because, if I'm being honest, their position makes far more sense than the position of the United States, who is seeking provocation. Donald Trump pulls out the JCPOA. Now, that's the nuclear deal that people call it. That was one of Obama's main achievements, if I'm being honest. Within the context of the nuclear deal, Iran would not pursue nuclear weapons. And they had this by putting certain limits on enrichment limits and the amount that they can
of uranium
that they can contain. So Iran agrees to the tenets of that deal, lives by the tenets of that deal. The entire world agrees that they're living to the tenets of that deal. Donald Trump gets in office and says, we don't like this deal, we're pulling out. Donald Trump, unilaterally, by himself, pulls out of an agreement that the rest of the world is saying is working. He himself does this. He puts people like John Bolton Pompeo, yes, but he himself, he's president of the United States, he pulls out this deal. And then he imposes sanctions, and he puts in worse and worse sanctions. Now, sanctions kill. During the Clinton administration, they killed 500,000 children with the sanctions that were put place against Saddam Hussein's government. And if you want to look at the Venezuelan government, the last reports that I saw was like 40,000 people died because of the sanctions. Sanctions kill. They stop them from getting vital medical supplies and food supplies and those type of things. So, in the context of this, the United States goes with a position of ratcheting up tensions. And that's what it does. It ratchets up tensions. Going so far as to say the Revolutionary Guard, essentially their military force, is a terrorist group that's astonishing, and starts putting military in that area, meaning tries to get closer to Iran, putting it into the Strait of Hormuz. They're upping their military engagement in that region. They're screaming that these guys are terrorists, their military force, and Donald Trump is threatening them at every moment. Iran, in this case, has stuck to the deal. For a year, after all of these provocations, Iran stuck to the deal. And then Iran, at one point after a year, says, look, since nobody else is sticking to this deal, the United States has pulled out, all of these companies pulled out, they've ratcheted up sanctions. Nobody else is stuck to the deal. And because of such, we are going to dial back some of our obligations to the deal. At which point, all of these other patsy, weak, spineless European nations threaten Iran, how dare you pull out of a deal that none of you are attending to. None of them were attending to this deal. And then they came up with this kind of system behind the scenes, like Instex or whatever it's called, that doesn't work. That it doesn't do the main thing of relieving the sanctions, allowing them to sell their oil and so forth, allowing these businesses to work with them without sanctions. Because look, it doesn't matter what the governments of Europe say. If the United States, if one of their businesses is not going to be able to work with the U.S., which is one of the largest economies, then that business gets nuked. And that business is not going to do that. So it doesn't matter what the government says it wants. The companies, those are private entities, they do something else. Which that something else being not do business with Iran. Iran stuck to the tenets of this for a year. None of them stuck to the tenets of this the moment that the United States went out the deal. So Iran says, fine. Since none of you are sticking to the tenets, we're not either. We're going to change some of the items in the deal. And that's not even them stripping the deal off. They're saying we are pushing back on some of the items within the deal. One of these has to do with the level of uranium enrichment. So the level that's supposed to be is like 3.6. Iran has gone beyond 3.6 to like 3.67, and they've alerted them that they're going to do so, that they're going to exceed the limits. Also, the amount of uranium that they're supposed to be able to keep. Again, but these are like modest exceeds. Modest. The amount of nuclear enrichment for a nuclear weapon is 90%.
For uranium.
For uranium enrichment. Yeah. We're talking about 3.6%. That's what we're talking about. Meaning they're flipping out to 3.6%. Iran looks at this and says, you guys aren't honoring the deal. How are you looking at us when you've broken the deal? Like, one of the articles that came up on CBS News was why Iran breaching the deal matters. It wasn't Iran that breached the deal. The United States tore that deal to shreds when the United States pulled out the deal. Call it what it is. They're not being honest. And by the way, whether they enrich it to 20%, 30%, 40%, the U.S. pulled out the deal. Yeah. The moment that the U.S. pulled out of the deal, all this hair on fire and stuff should have taken place from the standpoint of Europe.
Because there are stipulations within the deal that say if other parties aren't adhering to the deal,
yes,
then you can withdraw or you can change the
certain
parameters,
elements. Right,
guess,
you can suspend certain elements of it. And Iran makes this argument. Well, Iran's position is, look, elements of the deal allow us. Yeah, we got to do this story. Elements of the deal. Because Iran's position is we haven't broken the JCPOA. There are elements of this that allow us flexibility to say that we could suspend certain provisions if other parties are not living up to their aspects of the deal. And that's effectively what they are doing. That is literally what they are doing. The U.S. isn't living up to their deal. So under the JCPOA, we are allowed to pull away from it. Right here. This is their foreign minister.
Javad Zarif.
Yeah.
I killed that babe. It was awesome.
You did kill that. You nailed it. So today, Iran is taking its second round of remedial steps under paragraph 36 of the JCPOA. We reserve the right, notice, he's speaking in terms of the agreement that the U.S. was pulled out of, Today, Iran is taking a second round of remedial steps under the paragraph 36 of the JCPOA. We reserve the right to continue to exercise legal remedies within the JCPOA to protect its interests in the face of the U.S. economic terrorism. All such steps are reversible only through E3 compliance. Having failed to implement their obligations under the JCPOA, including after the U.S. withdrawal, EU and E3 should at a minimum politically support Iran's remedial measures under paragraph 36, including the IAEA. E3, Jesus Christ, have no pretext to avoid a firm political stance to preserve the JCPOA and counter U.S. unilateralism. Now, understand what he means by this. He's making the point that, look, we lived up to our obligations for a year. For the entire year, the U.S. has ratcheted up tensions. And the country that screams weapons of mass destruction in Iraq also went so far as to accuse us of hitting a tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Without evidence, by the way. Without proof. They have no proof. And yet they accuse him of doing such. But my point is, you've ratcheted up tensions on us. And the European leaders should have backed us since we were the only parties that were being legit and attending to this deal. You should back us up on this. That's his point. Mm-hmm. And his point is like, look, the U.S. has already pulled out the deal. How are you looking at us?
Right.
The U.S. has already pulled out the deal. The U.S. killed the deal. But within the context of the deal, because he's still speaking in terms of the deal, within the context of this deal.
Per paragraph 36.
Yeah, per paragraph 36, he goes to paragraph. We are allowed to suspend the deal. We're allowed to suspend the deal if one of the parties is being belligerent. Meaning, in this case, the United States. The United States is not fulfilling its obligations under the deal. Europe is not fulfilling its obligations under the deal, meaning protecting them from these economic sanctions,
right?
Which is literally economic terrorism or active war, economic warfare. Since you're not living up to your obligations, why should we?
And they're not withdrawing.
They're not withdrawing. They're
just
speaking in the context of the deal. They're just saying we are pulling out of certain elements since you guys are not living up to your obligations.
You're not doing it. We're not doing it.
Well, why should we? And just from a literal sense of the word, why? Why should we?
A deal is a deal that's made between two parties. You're agreeing to do X, Y, Z. I'm agreeing to do X, Y, Z.
And by the way, in a political sense, they have a political system just like we have a political system. Maybe different, but they have one. And you have the moderates who were more so in favor of this deal because Iran keeps saying we're not trying to get nuclear weapons anyway. This is just a canard in order to kind of have a power play on us. And you have the other right-wingers in their party that says that doesn't really matter. We should not cede this much ground to the United States. That's their position. But they do it anyway. They still get the deal done. And you have people in the U.S. with the same kind of back and forth, but they still get the deal done. And the rest of the world co-signs this deal because the rest of the world looked at some of the people in America and they were terrified. These people are maniacs. And so fine, let's get the deal done. Trump pulls out unilaterally. Europe is against him. If you're against them, be against them. Back them up. To say, look, the U.S. pulled out of the deal. And they should have had a hair-on-fire approach to it. And the way they're having this hair-on-fire approach to the way they're doing it now with Iran. They should back Iran in this. The European powers should back Iran in this. They should say, look, the U.S. needs to come back to the bargaining table. And until it does, they're doing what they need to do.
And they have even said in the article, the other article that you pulled up, Iran leaders have even said that the measures that they're taking can be reversible within hours.
Yeah.
If
you guys are willing to compromise,
do what needs to be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are willing to reverse these things.
So,
look, I've said myself, Trump needs to go back to the JCPOA. They have no room to negotiate until that point happens. Because it was too much political capital that was given just to get the JCPOA passed in Iran. And Trump pulls out unilaterally, which makes all those people who put their necks on the line to get it passed look like idiots and assholes. And so now those people are supposed to put their necks out again for Trump. They can't, he doesn't, and whether Trump realizes or not, this destroys his credibility in the sense of North Korea, destroys his sense of credibility in the sense of Venezuela, destroys his credibility across the board. Nobody can work with him because they can't trust him. And this was, honestly, the thing that took place in the Gulf was the first time that I heard somebody question whether or not the U.S. was acting shady, which is astonishing because there's buku's evidence that we actually did all of these instances. Yeah. And again, just to make it clear, 90% of nuclear enrichment is needed for weapons. We're talking about 3.6%. 3.6. And also we're talking about the U.S. pulling out of the agreement. The U.S. pulled out the agreement. Yeah. This is very clear. You're working for me, and I'm supposed to give you $10, each week. And you stop working for me, but you get mad at me that I don't give you the $10. You know what I mean? Like, say you're doing videos. Let's say you're cutting a video. Let's say you're cutting a video for $15 each video. And I expect you to cut, you don't show up, and yet you expect to be paid. It's nonsense. Like, these two had an agreement. And it was an agreement that neither side got everything that they wanted, and that all of these other nations co-signed. The U.S. pulled out. This is on us. Europe should support Iran in this. Just saying.
That one came from what? Fred Edwards?
Yeah, I think that was Fred Edwards.
Thank you, Fred. I saw him on here. I don't see him right now, but.
And by the way, this has been up to Nanny because we've seized a supertanker, or the UK seized a supertanker. I'm going to do this as a show in and of itself, but the United Kingdom, UK, Britain, seized a supertanker off the Strait of Gibraltar. Now, this is astonishing because it's even unclear on whether or not this was in Spanish or British territory. I mean, calling it Britain in and of itself is nonsense. It's in Spain. Nevertheless, like, it's clearly in Spain. But seized the tinker off of the Strait of Gibraltar. Now, Spain doesn't like this. And they are annoyed by this. Annoyed to the point where the foreign minister is out there making comments about we're looking into making sure this was actually in British territory. But astonishing. Like, Iran is calling this, piratery.
Patrick Seguin, thank you for the super chat. He says, Moon of Alabama contradicts Iran limit narrative.
What's the Iran limit narrative? No, what is the contradiction to it?
I don't know what Moon of Alabama is.
I think it's a website.
Oh.
Yeah. But I don't know
we'll
what that
have to
means.
Look at that.
Yeah, I don't
contradicts the Iran limit narrative. I think he's talking about the uranium
limit
enrichment.
I mean, look, we're talking about 3.6. And it takes 90% for a nuclear weapon. I mean, for a weapon. Like, it's nonsense on his face.
There's a video where, is it one of the leaders or who was it on RT, where they were talking about what their uranium enrichment is actually being used for.
Yeah.
Like medicine.
If you're talking about like medicine, you're talking about like power.
Yeah.
Nuclear power, like all sorts of things. They're talking about subs and powering devices.
That low level of enrichment, it can only be used for those things. And like you said, 90% is required.
90% is required for weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
And we're having this conversation about, it's like, oh my God, these people are flipping out over there. Look, this is the issue of power. I've said it more than once. The issue is power. You're trying to find a reason in order to create this kind of... Israel has a nuclear weapon. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. But Israel has a nuclear weapon. The United States and Saudi Arabia works with Israel in order to create a certain dominance in that region. Iran is one of the factors that is not within that cabal. So you have Iran, Syria, and some of these countries that are not within Western domination. And so you find ways to try to undermine those governments. The way that they've structured this is, if we can keep Iran, and we always have a pretext to hit Iran, which is they're always trying to get nuclear weapons. Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons. So Israel has nuclear weapons. Yeah. But we're talking about Iran. We're talking about Iran. All of this has more to do with power in that region of the world and maintaining domination in that region. This is just pretext. I mean, I don't know a contradicting narrative, but that's the reality of it. Like this notion that 3.6 enrichment is, Iran has said on more than one occasion that they were not trying to get nuclear weapons. More than one occasion.
Yeah, but if they were, would they be like, yeah, that's what we're doing?
But they've had inspectors in. They've had all sorts of people looking. They haven't been trying to get nuclear weapons. This is a canard. This is a story that these guys are using.
Yeah, I think.
They've gone further, though. The UK sees the super tanker. Supposedly they're going for Spain. Yeah. So there's tension, and that's to say the least. Iran has even gone so far as to say we'll grab a British tanker that's coming by in response. But those are like leaders in the country that, it's like if you listen to Lindsey Graham on any random day, Lindsey Graham says some really hateful shit too. So it's hard to know like the gravity of what's been said. I don't put much stock in it personally. It's possible. I mean, when they respond, you've essentially attacked one of their ships. What would the United States do if somebody grabbed one of the United States ships? Flip the fuck out. It's like, how dare you grab our ship? They would lose it.
Yeah.
But it's said in the news like, the UK has grabbed one of Iran's tankers. Iran threatens response. Oh, that's quaint. Like, they don't have a moral right to respond. They do have a right to respond. Will they is a different story. So, all right. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, this was one that I saw that was interesting, especially when we were talking about...
Wait, give me 1 second. Let's see.
You want me to do the spiel? While you pull up whatever you're pulling up? All right, we've got about 163 people here. If you're just joining us, welcome. Today is Contributor Appreciation. This is the weekly show that is set aside to give appreciation for the people who contribute to the channel. I'm frozen? Are you frozen?
We're slightly
You're freezing.
frozen.
To give appreciation to the people who contribute to the channel. If you were not here when we started, there is an update. So historically, the weekly patron appreciation or contributor appreciation shows are live, and then they are taken down for YouTube and put exclusively on the Patreon platform for patrons only. One of the patrons asked, why do we do this? Because nobody sees it. And then we look and there's like 6 views on a video. And then also patrons have said that they don't log into Patreon. You know, they follow him on YouTube. They make the patron commitment and then they don't think about Patreon anymore. And so they're not even accessing these videos once they're dropped in. So as of today, as of this video, the patron content or the contributor appreciation content is going to be available across YouTube. Well, you know, not just in the Patreon platform, but it will still be driven by contributors' topics. So if you are contributing through PayPal, Streamlabs, Super Chat, and of course Patreon, make sure that you submit your topic suggestions because we still will use that information to fuel the contributor appreciation show. But after today, the video is going to be taken down. It'll be down for probably 2 days because we're going to cut it up into different segments and then put it out. So every topic is going to be its own video, but it will be open to everyone, not just patrons. But yeah, people say that, you know, they don't watch it on Patreon. So this way everyone will have a chance to see it.
Excellent.
If you're not a patron and you are here, thank you for being here. If you enjoy the content, give a thumbs up so that he knows that you're liking what he's putting out. Someone asked before what Patreon is. If you're not aware, Patreon is a platform that allows you to support a YouTube artist, and you say, hey, I like your content. I want to make sure that you're able to keep putting it out. I'm going to commit to a monthly donation to you. As little as $1 gets you the access to Patreon. Yeah. And that's how all this kind of started, was to give a thanks to those people. It is going to be, again, the show is still going to be driven only by the contributors' topic suggestions. So just if you're a patron or a contributor, make sure that you're giving those so that we get the topic. Have good content for each week.
All right, I want to show this one. Joe Biden. So this channel has been against the Russiagate conspiracy. That's putting it lightly. Almost on day one. It just sounded too good to be true. It was too much in the bag for the Democratic Party, who hated Trump, and the media who hated Trump, who are all looking for convenient excuses to go after Trump. I said it was nonsense. I said it sounded like a conspiracy theory, just kind of James Bond, Clancy-esque manuscript. And it turned out that that's exactly what it was. That when Mueller came out, meaning they got everything that they wanted in the context of an investigation, and it showed that they did not know what they were talking about. It was indeed a conspiracy theory. Now, I have a new person that will welcome me to the ranks of being non-Russiagators, people who are skeptical of the Russiagate narrative. You'd never guess who he is.
Who?
One Mr. Wait for it. Wait for it.
I can't do a drum roll.
Joe Biden.
Oh, we knew that.
You knew Joe Biden was a Russiagate skeptic?
Okay, no, I didn't know. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. Listen to what Joe Biden says here, because it's awesome. Let me see if I can get this.
Trying to undo our elections. He is undoing elections in Europe. Look what's happened in Hungary. Look what's happened in Poland. Look what's happened in Moldova. Look what's happening. You think that would have happened on my watch or Barack's watch? You can't answer that, but I promise you it wouldn't have, and it didn't. Elections in Europe.
Bear with me. The video is completely freezing. I think our whole system is freezing. So hold on. Let me restart the video for Biden.
Okay, guys, give me 1 second. It's like everything's frozen. Crap. Damn. Oh.
You just killed the video?
Well, yeah, I just killed it. Sorry. Yeah, 1 second. What the? Yeah, something's going on with There it is. All right.
Or at least bring us back or something.
I'll bring us back. All right. Well, you all saw the Biden video. Essentially, Biden made the point that if it was me, and if I was in office, and if Obama was in office, if we were in office, that Russia stuff would have never taken place. I don't know if the host asked Joe Biden immediately after that, or told him.
That did take place, didn't it?
You were in office, Joe, where they're saying that Putin stuff took place. So what are you saying? He just seems out of it. Whether he wants to be, I kept saying, Joe Biden just wants to be president. He doesn't want to do the work of running for office. There's a difference in those things. These are like low, easy mistakes. Like, what's the first thing you want to do when you get in office, Joe? I want to beat Trump. Okay, Joe, you realize you've been in office at the time. Oh, right.
One of the things that I said was a little odd, I thought was kind of funny during the debates, how Joe kept cutting himself off. Any other time that you've seen a politician in a debate, they are running the clock. They're like, just give me a quick 2-sentence explanation of so-and-so. And they're like 6 paragraphs in. And people are like, okay, thank you, time. Joe will give like 2 words. And he's like, but I think I'm probably out of time now, so I'll stop. It's
I've never seen anybody do that.
Not really excited about that.
Like, I've never seen anybody do that.
Giovanni Liviana says Russiagate is misdirection made up by Hillary's team, so neither she nor they will ever admit fault. Yeah, we know that. Hillary lost with no help from Russia. Yeah, that's true.
That is very true. That is very, very true. All right, so let's do Warren, because I don't like Warren. Don't get me wrong. If it was between Warren and Trump, I'd vote for Warren, even though I don't think Warren would beat Trump. And I think she's a fudgy factor. I mean, this is the person who wouldn't stand up for Standing Rock after calling herself a Native American for God knows how long. Pocahontas thing. And wouldn't stand up for Sanders when it counted in Massachusetts. And now she's screaming for my vote. Yeah, you didn't stand up for my interest before. Well, so why do you need my help now? Get elected without my help.
Vote she's trying to get now?
I'll get behind you after you win. I'll do that.
You know who else's vote she's trying to get now? I found this article today.
Darkies.
Women of color.
What?
Yeah, she's got some new policies out.
Well, the whole reparations thing in and of itself was a pitch for the black vote.
She's planning on... presidential hopeful and Senator Elizabeth Warren released a plan, lots of plans, on Friday aimed at closing the wage gap affecting black and brown women, part of a broader focus on income inequality as she and other Democratic candidates vie for the support of minority voters. She wrote a post on Medium that she would issue several executive actions to boost wages for women of color and open pathways for them to become leaders in the federal workforce. She said she would implement her equal opportunity executive order on her first day as president. Yeah, wow. Slim chance of hell of that. She says it's time to build an America that recognizes the role that women of color play in their families and in the economy, that fairly values their work, and that delivers equal opportunity for everyone. She says she's going to issue an executive order to deny federal contracting opportunities to companies with poor track records on diversity and equal pay. Now, let me get into this because the way that she's doing this, she says she's going to prevent discrimination by banning federal contractors from asking applicants for their past salary information and criminal histories.
Wow.
Because women of color may miss out on employment opportunities more often than white women because they are incarcerated at higher rates. Hispanic women are in prison at 1.3 times the rate of white women, and black women are twice as likely to be in prison. Now, you had some thoughts about
it's
like
the criminal,
federal contractors can't ask for criminal history?
Well, it depends on how it's done. So if you're saying I'm asking for the criminal history of somebody who's done pot, then yeah, I mean. But
how do you
know
say,
that without asking?
Like, I want criminal histories with, this level of offense?
Well, because the problem is, if I'm a company, I may not want to hire somebody who's a thief. It's nothing to do with your race.
That should be my right.
That should be my right. I think, if I'm hiring somebody, or I shouldn't be able to hire, I should have the right to not hire somebody who's embezzling money.
But I think what she's saying is that women of color.
Yes, but shouldn't that be the issue of fixing your criminal justice system that is putting women of color in prison at higher rates?
But this sounds better.
Yes, it depends. But again, it's always the implementation. Elizabeth Warren has all sorts of plans. I mean, she's a wonk. She's a policy wonk. She has a plan for everything. But in practice, the question becomes, what does she do? My issue is not so much that you create pathways for people who have prison records. That's not my issue at all. My issue is not even the race thing. The race thing doesn't become a factor for me. It becomes this issue of, if I have a company, do I have the right to say, I don't want somebody who was a felony associated with embezzlement on their record? And if you tell me that no, that gets a little dicey. It's like,
we're still about for federal contractor. So you as a personal small business.
Yeah, as a small business. Well, it depends on if I'm working with the government. I mean, small companies work with the government also.
No, I know.
I mean, now, if you're talking about bigger companies who are asking people for criminal records and this guy has a felony for drug possession, I don't want you denying that guy a job because he has a felony on his record for drug possession. But how do you know unless you ask the question?
When an employer gets a criminal record, a criminal history, do they get to see the charges? Well, or do they just say they have a misdemeanor or they have a felony? Well, they ask, but then they also
go for a criminal
confirm
check.
that.
Yeah.
So when the background check comes back, do they get to see what the crime was? Or does it just say misdemeanor or a felony?
That I don't know. I do know that they get to see that the person had a record. The question is what?
And I do know that they also can tell whether or not it's a misdemeanor
or a felony.
But yeah. I'm curious to know.
Is there more?
Do they see the actual offense?
Because do you get to see rape? Do you really want to have somebody on your staff that raped somebody? And if you're an employer, do you not have somewhat of a fiscal duty to know? I guess like a duty to your employees. It gets a little tricky. Yeah, it gets tricky. Like, let's say I have a company. Let's say I have 50 employees in that company. And as having 50 employees in that company, I have to hire people, and I have somewhat of a responsibility to make sure that you come to work safe. That the person who's working with you is not a lunatic. How do I not do that? How do I not, like, don't get me wrong, I get it. I get the problems associated with it. If you say, you have some employers who are going to abuse that to say anything. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you were caught smoking pot. I don't care if you had a protesting arrest, like where you were a hippie and you were protesting, the Vietnam War. I don't care if it was that. I don't care what it is. In which case they would say, there are other applicants. I'm just going with those other applicants. Right. However, if you have a country that has a justice system that skews, we have four times the amount of African Americans going to prison for drug possession as opposed to, then right off the bat, you get a skew in your applicant base. Not only are whites, 60-something%, but you also have now the skew for prison record associated with color. I feel her implementation is everything.
Now, there is more than just that.
Go for it.
She says that she would also work to diversify the leadership of the federal workforce through direct recruitment at minority-serving colleges and universities. She wants to establish a paid fellowship program for minority and low-income applicants and start a government-wide mentorship program for Black and Brown employees. She vows that under her administration, her Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which enforces civil rights laws against workplace discrimination, would more closely monitor discriminatory practices in low-wage industries. She wants to bring in top talent to deal with claims. The commission would issue first-of-its-kind guidance on enforcing claims involving the intersectional discrimination that women of color face when racism and sexism intertwine.
I don't hate Elizabeth Warren as a candidacy. And like I said, when she is talking about domestic policy, she is often saying things that I like, especially in comparison to the other Democrats. I even find it to be amazing that the conversation we're having now is essentially stuff that Sanders.
Hey, that's what I said.
Have been talking about. Well, I'm just saying the main candidates who are going to be in the race are Sanders at this point and Warren. Biden is still there, but Biden is flaming out like big time. Biden lost like 10 points in one of the last reviews that I saw.
I think that debate kind of hurt him.
That debate kind of hurt him. Like he was he said, I was shocked that they attacked me that way. Then you shouldn't be running. Like, honestly, if Joe Biden was really shocked that they hit him on this thing, then he should not be in the race. Because that means
we were friends.
That means he is politically incompetent. I mean, you made a major gaffe. You're in the Democratic Party. That Democratic Party is having a debate. The people on the stage, one of which is Black. You've been hit in the past saying you shouldn't have used outright racist in your statements of saying how awesome you can be, work in civility. How could you not know? And if you did not know, should you be running in the first place? My answer would be no. I don't hate Elizabeth Warren's policy prescriptions per se. I just don't believe her.
I think a lot of this stuff that's being done, if you weren't here earlier, we talked about how in the debates, Kamala Harris went after Joe Biden as the sole African American on the panel for the second round of DNC debates. They're going for the Black vote.
She is.
I really, a lot of this is an attempt to get the minority vote.
They are. They are. And I don't. Look, they saw the Hillary Clinton thing flame out. And if you remember, they were saying minorities weren't sufficiently loyal to Hillary Clinton to win. Blacks, they still voted like 90% for Democrat. And so this is their play of, we're not taking you for granted, dog. But that's
we're looking out for you.
But that's her.
Because Elizabeth Warren was she the first one that came out for reparations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was reparations that wasn't reparations.
No, I know. We're not going to go into the whole reparations thing.
I know, but
I'm just saying,
what she was saying wasn't really reparations. I mean, the moment that you asked her, wait, you're talking about only descendants of slaves because we are talking about reparations? I mean, if you're saying reparations for the governments of Central America or South America where we're involved in coups and whatnot, that's different. That shouldn't take place here in America. That should take place there. We're talking about what happens to slaves and maybe even Indians, indigenous people. I could totally see that. I don't see it taking place in the real world. Now, but I'm saying, but that's not what she was pushing for.
Nothing.
Like, I gotta be honest, I think she's a squishy candidate.
Squishy. You always use that word. I think it's funny.
It means she doesn't hold her shape. It means that if pressure is applied upon her, she do.
I know what squishy means. I know what squishy means.
That's what she do. She'd be in the Oval Office. That's assuming she can make it to the Oval Office. I just think she'll fall apart. That's all.
Okay.
Not to mention, I don't believe anything that she's going to do because she's not talking about having a popular revolt. She's just talking about her by herself with policy. And I got to tell you, that's not going to go anywhere.
I don't know personally anyone that likes Elizabeth Warren. Everybody in the comments is like, no, it's a no-go. And also, just a reminder, if you want, I do read the comments, but if you want to make sure that your comment is read, you can always do a super chat. I found out a couple months ago, YouTube has been giving free super chats. Like I have $1, I think 2 $1 freebies that I can give. If you have those and you want to give a topic, you can give your free $1 and just put your question or comment after that, and we'll see the $1 and we'll read them out loud because I don't catch everybody's. But yeah, nobody's, according to the comments that I'm seeing, just kind of stroll by. Nobody's for Warren. And even the people that like talk to me that are like ill-informed or like, yeah, I don't really like her.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of hers either. Oh, we were missing some on Streamlabs. What's today? Today's 7th?
Today is the 7th. We have Streamlabs. We got 2.
Yeah, we have 2. Kiss for a living. This is why nothing will ever change. Joe Biden was low-hanging fruit. I literally said on here, but a busing situation, and the bill gave him no shot. The Willie Brown mistress says his obvious weakness, and now people are on her clit. Yeah, I mean, It was an obvious weakness.
Now, this is Kills for a Living. He's talking about when we were saying earlier how Kamala hit Joe Biden. Can you read that again? Because that was a shitty read.
This is why nothing will ever change. Joe Biden was low-hanging fruit. I literally said it on here. The busing situation.
The busing situation. And the crime bill.
Oh, I see. Crime bill gave him no shot. The Willie Brown mistress says his obvious weakness, and now people are on her clip. Yeah. That's literally what's taking place. All right, second one. The Willie Brown mistress still has no shot, and the plan of anyone but Sheepdog will win. And the plan of anyone but Sheepdog will win. Oh, I see. Anybody but Sanders. Y'all Bernie stains. What? Y'all Bernie stands.
This is poorly written.
Y'all Bernie stands better.
Start putting pressure
on him to run a third party before it's too late, because he has no shot winning the majority of the party. Essentially, anybody but Sanders.
Now, he's calling Willie Brown mistress. That's Kamala Harris?
Yeah, because she slept with Willie Brown.
I remember that.
Yeah, she was his paramour of sorts. He owns it. He says, yeah, I helped her with political concessions. He said I helped her in politics, get into politics. But yeah, he hit that. That was her boo. That was her boo. All right, so let's do one more, because my system is acting weird and it's flaming out on me, but I want to talk about the last donation numbers. Is it possible you add stuff in it when you do the videos, like add a little something? Because these are clips.
What is this something?
Like little video clips.
Yeah.
Okay. Because right now we don't have it, and I can't flip over to the screen. Yeah, that's annoying. That's aggravating.
We have no visuals, so when we're trying to go over to the display screen
goes black.
There's nothing. You can't see anything, even when we can see it here. So when I cut the videos, I'll drop the footage in.
That works. Yeah, the video. Okay. That works. I'll pay extra. All right. So let's talk about Sanders' numbers. So Sanders' numbers were actually quite good. Sanders, keep in mind, in the last presidential race, it was only Sanders and Hillary. In this race, there are 23 participants. And so all of these people are essentially fighting for similar dollars. In Sanders' case, Sanders was still able to raise $18 million for the second quarter. Now, he's the second person to announce. Buttigieg announced. Buttigieg apparently did more, shockingly. That shocks the hell out of me.
But he has bigger donors, though.
He has bigger donors. That's true. So Sanders' average donation was $18 a person. Sanders raised $18 million for his Democratic presidential campaign in the second quarter. His campaign reported on Tuesday, a number that was shy of the high watermark set by South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, showed the Vermont senator's staying power in the crowded field. You got 20-some people, and he's still raising $18 a person, still was able to raise $18 million. That's not bad. The $18 million nearly came from 1 million donations. That is massive. The Sanders campaign said in a statement announcing the numbers at an average of $18. Sanders transferred from his coffers $6 million from other committees. The campaign was bringing a total of $24 million into the war chest.
So the second quarter they had $24 million, $18
total.
Million from those $1 million $18 donations.
Roughly $1 million, roughly $18 million, $1 million. Roughly 1 million donations, totaling $18 million. Right. He's adding in another, 8 million?
6 million.
6 million to his own coffers that he had stored elsewhere to make a total of $24 million in his war chest for the second quarter. That's not bad. And like I said, Buttigieg was the only one that did better. Now, another thing that was awesome, a lot of this money came from people who worked at Amazon, Walmart, Target, like these low-dollar job sites that were supporting Sanders, saying, we need, this is the guy that we want. And of course, why wouldn't it? Like, he is pushing back on these guys, on these companies, trying to get these companies to pay their people more. Why wouldn't people who work at companies...
If I was Amazon and I found out you donate to Bernie Sanders, I would fire you.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd be losing most of your workforce.
No, I'm just joking.
But no, these guys are, they're voting for Sanders. Why wouldn't you?
I think that's funny because people are like, yeah, he's run out of steam. There are legitimate reasons to hit Sanders.
1 million donations
but running out of
overwhelms
steam
everybody else. Yeah, that's nobody's close. On Monday, Buttigieg's campaign announced the mayor raised $24 million from 249,000 donations. Keep in mind, Sanders had nearly 1 million He's getting 249,000 donations. Like, I'm trying to show you the disparity in the number of people who are interested based on, like, 1 million donations is astonishing. Buttigieg gets 249,000. I'm just saying. There's a big difference. There's a big difference.
I like Buttigieg.
I don't particularly like him. He's part of the anti-Sanders coalition. He was at the meetings. Literally, they even mentioned him by name in the. He talks well. He does speak well. The top 10 common donors were employees, conglomerate retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon. The most common profession of the donors was, guess.
Say that again. I was reading the comments. I'm sorry.
Top 10. Don't look. The top 10 donors were employees of conglomerate retailers of Walmart, Target, and Amazon. The most common profession of the donors that gave money to Sanders. What was the most common profession?
Well, the retail workers.
Teachers.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's interesting. I just find it interesting. As opposed to like corporate executives or something like that. That's awesome. So Sanders is the second presidential candidate to announce his fundraising numbers for the second quarter. On Monday's Buttigieg announced the mayor raised $24 million from 294,000 donations on an average of around $84. At a Monday evening appearance on CBS News, Red and Blue, he acknowledged Buttigieg's number was higher than Sanders, but claimed that a lot of it has to do with the fact that Buttigieg is raising his money by big money donations. Mm-hmm. Sanders is getting small dollar donations to essentially fund his entire campaign. He has eschewed big ticket donations for those small dollar donations.
Mayor Pete. The Independent Chronicler says, look more into Yang. New progressive voice is the GOAT. Greatest of all time.
Is that what this stands for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
We're gonna have to add stuff into the videos.
Mayor Booty Fudge. That's inappropriate.
Yeah. And
I read it out loud.
I'm sorry.
I was reading other stuff. I was reading other stuff, and that one just kind of caught.
I always say booty, not because he's gay. I always add that part in because I want to make that point. That
I just think
the name is funny,
name.
not because it's butt and he's gay.
I didn't even know that he was gay when I started saying booty.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's his thing. That's the thing he was running on. I'm gay.
I didn't know anything about him until. So I was just joking when I said I like booty gay.
Oh. You've never seen my pictures with his boyfriend?
What I've been calling him Booty Gig since like the first time I ever heard his name. I didn't know anything about him. I did like the part when he was in the debates at the very end when they asked the question to the candidates, and they said, "What are you going to do to repair the damage that Trump has done with international relations?" And everybody was saying how, we're going to do this, Iran, the Paris Accord, whatever it's going to be. And he said, look, we don't know how many people Trump's going to piss off between now and the time of the elections. I did like that. But that's about all.
I didn't particularly like Buttigieg. Look, Sanders didn't do, I would say, massively great in the debates. And I like Kamala Harris putting a knife in Biden, all that good stuff. But
somebody said good outfit coordination. We are kind of like gray and navy.
Yeah.
That wasn't intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional. Yeah.
Maybe
but we should take it as intentional. Take it as intentional. All right, guys. I'm going to end this because we're going to have a little bit of work to do with the videos. And I think we've got through our list.
We did. So thank you to everyone for the.
We need to put in the donation numbers.
Yeah.
Damn, I hate it when the software messes up. This is an OBS issue. We're having slowdowns, meaning the system would go to a creaking halt. And when I went to try to see what was going on, what program was running, it nuked the OBS, and now the OBS is not bringing up stuff on the other window. But we will add it in at the end at the debate point.
Right.
I mean, at the publishing part.
If you didn't hear, just one more time. First of all, don't forget, Jamal has a secondary channel because a lot of people said they didn't know that. The Black Box is live. Not a lot of content there yet, but working on it.
Yes.
Second, as of today, contributor appreciations will be available to all of YouTube. not taken down and dropped in for patrons only. Now, it is going to be taken down because we have to do some editing. They're going to be jumped down.
Well, the full video can stay up if that's true.
Oh, you want to leave the full video up? And then drop
That's
in
a good question.
5 other small videos?
Should we leave it up or just cut it? And if we drop in 5 other videos, are people going to see? See, my thought is people may watch the thing. Some people may not watch to see the other 5 videos. So, like, people may go in and say maybe 3. They might see 2. They might see 1. But they don't see...
The thinking is when somebody clicks and sees a 2-hour-long video, they're going to say, I don't want to watch that shit.
Right.
So that's why we were talking about splitting them into what would end up being 5 smaller videos.
Yeah.
So that somebody can say, okay, well, I just want to talk about or just want to hear about you guys talking about Iran not withdrawing from the deal. And so they can click on those specifically. So that if that's the case,
yes,
we're going to take down the full video now.
But if that's the case, we can leave up the full video if nobody's going to watch it anyway.
Okay, whatever. That's
well, think about it.
I understand.
If nobody's going to, if people are going to look at that and say, fuck that, I'm not going to watch that video. But if you cut it up, they're never going to know what's in the video anyway. Meaning that 5th video never gets seen. Now, the few people who do watch it all the way through won't click on that last video, so it may lower the numbers to the secondary video, but you still may get more.
Okay, fine. We'll leave it up.
I think putting in the 5 still works. Yeah,
we'll leave it up. And then over the next 2 or 3 days, you will see the 5 different segments. I say 2 or 3 days because it takes a long time. They have to be cut. I add in graphics and intro and all that other stuff and upload it again, and so those will be in separate segments.
Yeah, that works. That works.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Do you have a link to the black box in the description box?
Yes.
Okay. Someone said put a link up. The link to his second channel, which is called the Black Box, is in the description box below this video. So if you are curious, that's where he's just going to talk about. Somebody said you could just put timestamp links below the video. I think we did that once before.
Yes. I guess we could.
It saves a lot of work.
It would, but nobody clicks on the 2-hour video. That's the catch.
Right. That is the thing.
It's like even if with timestamps.
That means that they have to watch it. And they have to look at it to see, okay, yes, there are timestamps.
Yeah, because otherwise they don't even see the timestamps.
Right.
I mean, you see 2-hour videos, like, fuck that.
I think the stats show, I mean, like, he and I have talked about it. Like, when we were looking for, like, travel videos and stuff like that, we were sitting there looking and, like, a video was 10 minutes. Okay, that's fine. Once it starts to get, like, 30 minutes, like, yeah, I don't want to watch that shit.
Like,
what are they talking about for an hour and a half? Yeah, I don't want that.
There may be people who are interested in you, who would listen to you, but when you're trying to get kind of like a larger thing, I do videos for both. There's some videos that are, like, 10 minutes. There are other videos that are, like, an hour. It just depends on what the topic is.
Yeah. Forsaken Champion says, if you chop it up, where do I find the Star Trek commentary? We didn't have a lot of Star Trek
We didn't have it today.
But go check out the Black Box because there's some Star Trek-y stuff there. There's some Superman stuff on the Black Box.
We're talking about Trump and UFO stuff with you, Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, we didn't talk about any of that.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. Don't worry. It will be, trust me, Star Trek stuff would always come up. All right, I will leave this here then. Guys, I totally appreciate you showing up to the Patreon Appreciation Special. Or Contributor Appreciation. Let me get my language straight. Miss Thomas is going to float in and out. Mrs. Thomas, when she gets the opportunity to show up and, do the show. We always appreciate her here. And I think that's everything. Watch out for me on Sputnik. I was on last week. And again, thank you for all the best wishes for my mom. That was always that she appreciates the get well wishes and all.
Oh, so, also, if you're a patron, just to interject, I do try to put notices on when he's going to be on the radio show, as well as links to him so that you can watch when he's on the radio show. So if you're a patron, log in and check those out. And I will be added onto one more radio show now on Sputnik. So it's going to be Karyaku and Brian Becker. Which is the new one. That's the new one. I don't know the name of that show, but that's going to be another show that I'm going to be doing when I'm in Washington, D.C. So I think that's the last. Somebody said something about call-ins. Maybe we'll do those next week. That works. I mean, if you'll be here, we'll do it. Well, maybe you can do those, or the show will do them next week. Whether I'm not here or not. You said we before. That's okay. Everybody heard to say we. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.